Hello fellow crafters. I am here today to show you how you can go from something like this in a font to something like this. Creating your own chevron pattern from just a simple rectangle like this one right here and applying that to any shape or word, font, whatever it is that you have. Okay? So I'm going to get rid of that for right now and that and even this one. Alright, so to start, we're going to come over here to our panel and create rectangle right here. And I'm going to draw a rectangle. And up here, I can go ahead and adjust my width and height. So I'm going to make the the width 3 and the height 1. You can do whatever ratio that you want. This is just what I'm going to be using for this video. Something too is what I do is I go ahead and leave that original right here and I duplicate that so that way if I do decide that it's too thick or too thin of a line, I can always go back to the original, make that adjustment that I want, and then quickly make my pattern again, because this is a pretty quick pattern to make. It's going to seem like it takes a little bit because I'm walking you through it, but the whole process really only takes a couple minutes. So to duplicate, you have a few options. I'm a keyboard fanatic, so you're going to be hearing me say I'm doing something, but you won't see it happening on the screen as far as clicking somewhere, and that's because I'm going to be using my keyboard. But to duplicate, you can come over here and you can use, this is the duplicate icon. It's got 2 little squares. You could also go up here to, I think it's under Edit and Duplicate. Or if you want to do the keyboard shortcut, it's just the Control and the letter D at the same time. Alright, so here's my original rectangle that I drew. That's 1 by 3. I'm going to duplicate it. And here it is. So I'm going to change the color of that so I know which one I'm working with. Alright, and this one's, I'm just going to save it up there for in case I need it. So now I'm ready to actually start making my chevron pattern. So the first thing I need to do is come up here to Object and Transform, because I'm going to transform this rectangle to make it the first side of my chevron. When the Transform box opens, I'm going to click on Rotate, and I'm going to change the angle to 45. This is just what I'm doing. You can use any angle of rotation that you want. You can even free rotate it if that's what you want to do. I just do 45 because it's a nice number in my head that works for me. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit Apply. And you can see that that transformation was applied to my rectangle. So I'm actually done with this part. I'm going to close this out. So here is the first side of my chevron pattern. So now what I need to do is I need to duplicate that. And I'm going to change the color just so you can see it. Let's just do that color. And then up here, I'm going to go ahead and rotate that 90 degrees clockwise. And there it is. So you can see the original and then the one that from when I duplicated it and rotated it 90 degrees clockwise. Now, something that I normally don't do is I normally hate and turn off the automatic snapping feature in Inkscape, because I like to move things where I want. I don't want them to go where it thinks that I want to put it. But for creating this, I do leave my snap option turned on, the enable snapping. So if yours is off, just click right here to turn it on. But the default, I believe, is for it to be on. At least mine is. So we're going to be using that to go ahead and create our pattern. So I'm going to grab this new one right here, and I'm going to move it over here till it says corner to corner. You see that right there? Let me do that again. So I'm going to move it till it says corner to corner. And that's that snapping feature. So again, corner to corner. So now these are perfectly, and I'll zoom in so you can see, perfectly lined up on the edges here, on the left and the right and at the bottom tip. Alright, so that's what that corner to corner, that's what that snapping does, is it just lines everything up perfectly for us. So now I'm going to take both pieces and I'm going to group them together for right now, and I'm going to duplicate, grab the top one, and corner to corner it right there. Now I'm going to grab these, group them together for right now, duplicate it, and corner to corner. Same thing, I'm going to group, duplicate, corner to corner. And you know what I just realized? I didn't show you how I was doing group. So when you have the two pieces, you have a few options. Over here on my little side panel, this one is group selected objects. You can come up here to object and group, or, and again I apologize, Control G, that's what I was doing to group, is the keyboard shortcut. Okay, so I'm going to group these. And if I'm happy with the length of that, then I can stop, or I can duplicate and corner to corner it. And now I have a really long chevron pattern. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely ungroup all this because I'm happy with the width of the width of my lines. So I'm not going to make any adjustments. But if you didn't like how thick that was, you could come up here, you could make it thinner, and then you could just repeat that process, to get your pattern again. So in order to union or weld these together, I need to have them all separated. So what I do is I just ungroup until I have each piece separate. To ungroup, you can either click right here, the little yellow square with a circle. You can go up to Object, Ungroup. But for me, the fastest way is the keyboard Shift Control G. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to show you how you know when you're done ungrouping. If you'll follow my mouse, down here at the bottom, where it tells you what's going on in your little status bar, as you're ungrouping, when you get done, it's going to tell you no more objects to ungroup. So just watch here while I'm ungrouping with my keyboard shortcut. See, now it says 4 objects, 8, 16, 32. Now it says no groups to ungroup. That means I've completely ungrouped everything. And now I want to union this together. That's kind of like welding it together. So I'm going to come up to Path, and you can click on Union. I do Control++. Because, again, to me it's a whole lot faster to use my keyboard than to have to go up to the menu each time. But you can do Path, Union, and that kind of welds it all together. But again, I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut. So now you can see it all changed to the same color, and it's one single solid piece. You can't ungroup anything because it's together. It's like if I sat here and I drew it that way. So now I'm going to show you how to make your different rows, because this is just one row. So what I want to do is I want to duplicate this, and I'm going to change the color of it. And again, because my snapping is turned on, I can take this piece, and I want to go right here. So I shifted to the right a little bit, and it says cusp node to cusp node. I'm going to do that again for you. Cusp node to cusp node. Alright, so what that's doing is that's going to give me my gap between my actual layers of the stripes. So now I'm going to go back to my original row. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to come straight down right here, cusp node to cusp node. You see that? Cusp node to cusp node. Okay, now to make the next row, I'm going to grab that turquoise and this maroon. I'm going to duplicate them, and then I'm going to come down here, cusp node to cusp node. You can get rid of this one. Now I'm going to grab my gap. This is my gap. I'm going to call it my gap holder. And then the two that are below it, duplicate, and come down here, the bottom one, cusp node to cusp node. Remove that one. Now I'm going to grab these 4 along with my gapper, duplicate it, and come down to the bottom one. Hold on, sorry. Right there, cusp node to cusp node. And you can just repeat that process till it's as long, you know, if you have as many stripes as you want. I think this is plenty for what we're working on. So once you have all of your rows, you can get rid of your gap row. And then you can take the rows that you have left and you can union those together. So now this is one piece of chevrons. Okay, so now we're ready to get our text. So I'm going to scoot this over out of the way for right now. And to get your text, come over here and you can see the letter A, and that's your text tool. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to pick a font. And what I do is I just double click in here and I just type the font that I want. For this we're going to use Impact. And make sure. And then I type here and we're going to do the word love because that's just such an awesome word. And now you can adjust the size of your text to however big or small that you want it in comparison to your chevron stripes. So one thing about this font that kind of bothers me a little bit, and you do not need to do this, is if you'll look, the O is taller than the other letters. So I'm going to show you how you can fix that if you have little things like that that drive you crazy. But the first thing you have to do when you have the text is you do need to convert it to a path. So you can use the path, object to path, or you can do Shift-Control-C. Once it's a path, you'll see down here it tells me it's a group of objects. So you need to go ahead and ungroup them. And again, I used my keyboard shortcut, but you can use this ungroup or the object ungroup. And then if you'll give me just a second to fix these because it's going to drive me crazy. So I'm just adjusting the height of all of them to be the same. But you don't have to do this. This is just because in my head it doesn't let me have them different. And if you did make any adjustments, you can align these. Shift-Control-A. I think it's under Object, Align and Distribute. And then I'm going to align them on the bottom. So now I have my text typed out, and these are each a path. You can see that they have nodes. These are paths. So the next step is important, and this is if you want to have an outline like I had in the original image, is go ahead and duplicate your word, and then down here on your colors, just pick a color and right click on it and choose Set Stroke. Then over here, the little white box with an X, just normal click on that and that's going to give it no fill. So then you can see it's just an outline of the word. And if you want to adjust how thick that is, click on your Fill and Stroke, which is under Object, Fill and Stroke. I just leave it pinned over here because I use it all the time. And go to Stroke Style, and I usually change it to inches. And then you can adjust how thin or thick that it is. And I think I'm going to do right there. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and leave that outline layer alone for right now. And I'm going to show you with the letters, the black part. I'm going to select those four, and what I'm doing is I'm holding my Shift key down while I'm selecting them, and I'm going to go ahead and union those together. Path, Union, and I'm going to move those to the top, and I'm hitting my Home button, but you can also come over here to Object, Raise to Top, but again, the Home button does the same thing. So now I have my letters, the fill letters on the top. Now I'm ready to make my patterns. I'm going to take my chevron and I'm going to also put it to the top. And I'm going to line up, I'm going to turn my snapping off because I do this better manually. I'm going to line up this part right here with the corner, but you could also just select your word, select your pattern, and you could align center, and that's going to kind of just evenly put it out. It's however you want to do it. You can also take your shape that you made, your pattern, and you can adjust it. So you see, if I make it like this, I have like a longer, a wider pattern. If you do it like this, then you have, shorter, more spiky. So, it really just kind of depends on what you want your chevron pattern to look like. But for this, I'm just going to kind of do right here. And I'm lining that up with the top. So I'm going to select my black. I'm going to select my chevron pattern. And I'm going to align to the top right here. And to the left. No, not to the left. Let's just do center. That'll be fine. So now what you do is you take those two pieces, the black, and then for my example, and then your chevron pattern, and you come up here to path, and you do intersection. And what that's going to do is that's going to leave, it's going to get rid of everything that's not overlapping in the two pieces that we have selected. So I'm going to click on intersection, and you can see I'm left with just the pieces where the two intersected. Okay, so now I'm ready to put the outline with those pieces. So I'm going to move this to the back for a minute by hitting my end button. But you could also come up to Object, Lower to Bottom. And I'm going to choose my outline layers right here. These are the ones that, if you look down here, they just have a stroke and no fill. So first we have to change that stroke to a path. So I'm going to change stroke to path. Now I'm ready to select all of it. I've got the 4 letters and the fill pattern, and I'm going to union that together. And boom, I have got a single object here, the word with the chevron stripes inside of it. If you can be done here, you can do a save as, save this as an SVG, and then upload it into your Cricut Design Space. Or if you use Silhouette Studio, you can take this and you can export it as a PNG, and then you can upload that into your Silhouette Studio if you can't use SVGs in there. But if, let's say, you want to make this 2 colors, let's say you want to have this part of it one color, but the parts that are white, you can see that those are just transparent. There's nothing there. If you want those to, to cut out separate, well, I'm going to show you how you can do that real quick. Really easy. It just takes a couple of steps. So if not, then you're done here. But if so, just watch what we're going to do. We're going to duplicate what we have because we want to keep this piece the way it is. So I'm going to hit duplicate. And let me change that color. And on this one, see, here's the new one. On this one, we're going to do a break apart. Shift Control K is what I usually do. So we're going to break that apart. And you're like, whoa, what just happened? Don't fret. Okay, now what you do is you go to each letter and kind of click toward the edge of it. And just so I can show you, I'm going to just change the color of the very, whoops, not that piece, you see, you want the one that's the whole piece. And same thing here. So those that I just changed the color of, we want to delete those. So just hit your delete button. So that one's selected. This one, delete, delete, delete. And then we don't need this inside of the O. That's supposed to be open. Now what you can do is I'm just going to click outside here and drag part of it I'm going to hold my Shift key. I'm going to click from the other corner and drag the other part of it. Now I'm just on those maroon pieces, and I'm going to union those together. Again, Path Union or Control++. And then you can see you have just the inside pieces, and then you still have the one that you started with. That's the outline with the other part. So if you want that to cut out as a separate color, that's all you've got to do, and then you automatically have both colors right here that you can save as an SVG. So I know that this video took a little while. That's because I wanted to make sure that I was explaining it to you, going slow enough where you're able to follow along. But if you have any questions or comments, please share them below in the comment section. I love to get feedback from you guys, and I love helping you guys create those designs that are truly yours, so you're not having to go out and search and find something that someone else created. You can create it yourself. So if you found this tutorial helpful, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. And like I said, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. If you don't have Inkscape yet, you can get it. Just make sure that you go to inkscape.org, not .com. It needs to be .org. And if you have a Mac, then you need to make sure that you also download the Xquartz, I think is what it's called. But if you have PC, then this is all you need, is just go to inkscape.org and download the version for your computer. So I hope you guys have a great, wonderful day. Happy crafting!